And the amazing first 3 minutes was this kind of Jay Leno-like newscaster, where they just want to make everybody happy kind of attitude. And this college professor, being a real way that college professors can be, held him to a point when a young co-ed at a town hall environment asked him, is America the greatest country? Why is it? And one person on the panel said freedom, the other one said liberty, and it cut to Will McAvoy, Jeff Daniels. And he was playing around and saying, yes, freedom, liberty. And the moderator said, I'm holding you to a real answer. And he snapped. And he said, it's not. It used to be. And he told about all of the amazing things we did in the second half of the 20th century. He was right. So today, with things like the DMCA, net neutrality, ISPs getting your viewing history, your browsing history, these are things we need to fight for. As he said, we used to make great things. We fought against polio. We fought against disease. We fought against dictatorships. Now all we have to do is come together and to fight. We've seen it with the Women's March. We've seen 700,000 women in Los Angeles alone marching because they didn't like what was going on. We saw it in the 60s. Now it's a bigger critical mass in the sense that the economy today is just starting online. We're nowhere near the saturation of jobs online that are going to happen once my kids' kids need jobs. And not just jobs, but life. The hacking that's going on today, the lack of cybersecurity, the preying on the individuals, the abuse of private information. If we don't fight for this now, it's like any disease. If you don't go to the doctor early, if you don't nip it in the bud, Andy, if you don't stop this in the earliest stages, it will permeate, become the way of life, and Orwell will be right. Now is the time to stop this, not 20 years from now. Is America the greatest country in the world? Could be. Used to be. It's in the hands of these people to reclaim that.
And Yosemite.
Yeah, what is that from?
It's the other day. He goes, what makes America great? I don't know. Yosemite?
Yeah, I did not. Oh, Yosemite the park.
Yeah, that's because.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Oh, that's why he says
Yeah.
Yosemite.
Yeah, I don't know. Yosemite? Yeah, because it's. Just in case you wander into a voting booth.
Because you are the worst period, generation, period, ever, period.
Yeah, so.
Did you like the show?
No, I just watched that 2-minute episode on YouTube.
That fucking was amazing, right?
Yeah. I never went further than that.
Oh, you have to, David.
Yeah, it's good.
It's on HBO. You have HBO Go now.
Yeah.
You can steal it somewhere, I'm sure. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay,
right,
so we're at Iceland.
Is it where we go?
Oh, no.
Grid becomes violent.
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I want to do. Okay. Predatory lending gone unchecked, plain and simple. Okay. I'm going to move that to Iceland because it's the same thing.
Where are we on?
122.
Sure.
I'm taking the last line and putting it above Iceland because it's what happened in Iceland, but they paid for it.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Ready? Okay.
Yep.
In 2008, 7, 8, and 9, we suffered a tremendous financial crisis based on housing being underwater, underneath the mortgage values, about how lenders were leading borrowers to believe that the value in the house was so much higher, so they would take out so much bigger of a mortgage and use the equity. This was predatory lending. This was an abusive financial system. Then they bundled those bad loans with other assets, not as toxic, but close, and sold them to international investors. One of the groups that got hurt by this not that they were innocent. They were trying to buy a pig in a poke, something that never would work, was Iceland. They went from this fishing economy to where they became incredible financial advisors overnight. And that country went right down to bankruptcy as well. Greece, Spain, many were teetering. The difference with Iceland is, in our country, we decided these people were too big to fail. And the saying became, but not too big to jail. We bailed out every one of these major banks. Paulson, Bush, Obama. Remember, 2008. The end of 8 years of Bush, the beginning of 8 years of Obama. Right at that point in time is when everything fell apart. Actually, within the transition. And my belief is because they knew the scam wouldn't work anymore. There was a new sheriff in town. In Iceland's case, he's got his butt stuck in the door on the way out. The difference in Iceland, every single one of those bank presidents stood trial. Every single one of those financial heads stood trial. And many, went to jail. There were consequences in Iceland. Yes, it is 1/100th the size of our country. It is probably smaller than that. But there were consequences. I think because it was manageable, because of size, because of lower population, it was easier to do. But it's something that should be noted, that no institution, if it has harmed this many people, should ever be seen as too big to jail. And the internet, the web platforms inspire that fear again. And you've seen it recently in the news with the lawyers from Google and Facebook sitting there in the Senate asking how they did not know that the ads were being paid for by Russian operatives, because the checks were being paid in rubles. And how could ads for our 2016 election being paid by Russian sources not be noticed? So this internet structure is so large, not even including the dark net, that many things can happen here and get out of control quickly, to use a great term. Going viral way too easily, but with much greater harm, more harm than ever known, and definitely closer to a real virus. Okay, hold on, why is there? Oh. Okay, so now it's how do we help, right?
What are we at? 22?
Yeah, no, I'm at 24. We just did 22.
Financial. Yep, you're right.
So we're at 24. What can you do to prevent?
All this from happening.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I don't want to use the quality and character. Well, maybe. Okay. This is really a different one. Okay. So, 24, what can you do to prevent this? How can you educate yourself? And, okay. Yeah, maybe how many qualities and characteristics of this new Gen I are part of your DNA. Okay. Ready?
Let's do it.
At the end of the day, the question is, how can we stop this from happening again? Whether it's the financial collapse, the abuse of this new technology, the abuse of our children, the abuse of our lives and time. Well, you really can't stop it. You can't stop it from happening. What you can do is see that when it does happen, you don't stand in its way. Can you become more of this world? Yes. Anytime something new comes about, there's going to be multiple destructions. Know that it's coming, like a tsunami, like a series of wind. Understand that it's coming at you and your home and your family, and how to prepare properly. And the easiest way to prepare properly is to monitor time. And one of my colleagues, who I truly respect, calls it a digital diet. And it's not easy. It's not easy, as for the reasons we discussed. You're at the end of a 60-hour week, both of you. You're exhausted. You just want to be able to make sure everything is generally okay and to do as best you can. It's tough to maintain and watch that diet without the time that you can dedicate to those kids. I think as we go through this process of the rebirth again of this platform, of social media, of learning online, of anything that has to do with the transition from analog to digital, the question is it internal to you as parents to be in this space? I think once you go through something, you learn, and it's muscle memory, it's just part of your process. So you're going to adapt, especially if it has anything to do with your loved ones. You're going to adapt and change. Are you part of that DNA? Nowhere near what your children are. I'm 62 this year. Every one of my students looks at me and says, why do you even know about this stuff? And some get offended that I do, because it's their space. I am an interloper, albeit I'm one of the earliest guys around this space who probably helped create a lot of it. But it's not part of my DNA in their eyes. Our job, your job, is to make it part of your DNA and change it for the better. Good?
Good.
Okay. I did do the next 4 things, you know what I mean?
Baking community.
Yeah, let's go to, okay. How to become easier, cheaper. Hold on. Is this G8 is kind of old, because we did talk about it in the last time, but I do want to, hold on. This is going to be jumped. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to throw I'm going to make this guy, ask yourself, 126. Ask yourself if the way you do these things has changed. I'm going to just change it to ask yourself, in my mind, if these will be here. These actions or needs or jobs, you know what I mean, will be here. I'm tired. Are you tired?
I ain't getting there.
Yeah, right?
We're at the
end, baby.
Yeah.
Got to push the energy level up.
Yep.
And this is where I talk about G8. Okay. So, hold the phone, Chuck. This part I can do. I do so many times I could pass out. Okay. In the next 20 years, my belief is going to be that what we used to do in analog, banking, education, purchasing, even arranging for travel or retirement, or anything that we did in an analog way is going to change. It's going to become obviously digital. We're seeing it today more than ever before. We can make plans for a trip, plan our retirement, go to the bank, read our favorite columnists, watch our favorite TV shows, even from our childhoods. We don't even have to move. We don't have to get off the couch at any point in time. I was joking around with a student that if I ever put a GoPro on my head to watch my actions, it would just be 8 hours of the television set, and every now and then my hand would come up with chips into camera frame. So I'm kind of there already, and I think my health reflects it at times. The question is this going to be the driving force forever behind this economy? And is this economy really being shaped this way, and what can we do? I always have to refer back to economic summits like G8 and G20. G8, 8 countries get together to discuss the future economics of the planet in certain areas. G20, larger group of countries come together and discuss how the economics and structure are going to be, that's what they do. That's how it's run. Things are not done on a week-by-week basis. This isn't a mom and pop candy store where you got to figure out, oh, is Easter coming up, or is a holiday coming up, what can I order? These things are done over 10, 15, 20-year plans. Yes, they shift, but primarily that's how wars come around. Wars come around because certain groups are not included in those 20-year plans. You decide that you're going to go into a country, take its natural resources, fight them because you want to control that market space. This is the old mafia move where Don Vito moves in on the Rosado brothers. It's the same thing. That wonderful scene where Hyman Roth is having his birthday and he's slicing the cake and giving out pieces to each one of the family members in his crime family. That's exactly what G8 and G20 is. The question is, in the next 20 years, where do you and your family fit in to that party? Are you going to get a slice of that cake? Is your child's future predetermined in that space? Are what they're doing on a daily basis helpful, hurtful? What is going on? And that's what the goal of this entire perception of Veal. How not to be it, how to recognize when you are being it, how to recognize the virtues in this space, the pitfalls, and how to make sure that you help you, your family, maybe others, maneuver through this space to the best possible outcome. Thank you for your time.
That ends the questions?
Yes, ma'am, and we're out.
Before you go, I'm going to have one more for you.
Sure, good.
Off the script. What would you tell your future grandchild who graduated high school? What advice would you give them? So it's projecting a little in the future.
Yeah.
What advice would you give your future grandchild after graduating high school?
So 30 years, just by the time I...
Yeah.
To be really honest with you, like, and we take this serious for a second. Okay. If I had to project my advice for my future family members, grandchildren, when they were ready to truly come into society as a contributing part, they're graduating school or college or high school or whatever, what would I tell them as advice? What would I give them as advice? What would I say to them? One of the strongest principles that my parents instilled in me, and all immigrants and all first-gen families, was education. Learn as much as you can. The other thing I would tell them is never waste time. A firm believer in the biggest commodity in the world is time. Also, take time to become something, but once you're there, don't waste any. Learn every day. Don't waste a second. Don't let anything abuse you, whether it's your time in an environment where it's only going to someone else's benefit and not yours. Be kind, be generous to your family. Be kind, be generous to your family. Many mistakes people make. They abuse their family, but treat someone else kinder. And they always say, you always hurt the ones you love. Well, if you're very selfish with your time in this space, which is what we're seeing today with this zombie apocalypse, they almost have no time for the people who have helped make them who they are and the life they enjoy today, because they want to impress someone on a screen who doesn't care about them. That's the control that this platform has. So as you immerse yourself into this space, always remember the people on the other side of the screen are not the important people. The people standing next to you are. And they're the ones that are going to support you. Should you embrace this technology? You're not going to have a choice. Should you embrace being a part of building this? Yeah, if that's what you enjoy doing. If it's not what you enjoy doing, good luck. It's going to be a very different world. Find what you can do and what your niche is. Stay there and just work extremely hard. The other point I'd like to make, and something I never believed until I got too old, there's nothing wrong with being the smartest person in the room. If you find yourself to be the smartest person in the room, get out of that room. Find another one where you can learn something. Because if you're the smartest person in the room, you're wasting that time. Go, work harder, and find a room where you can learn forever, and then move to the next one. Times move forward, things change. Static doesn't work. Those days are over. And best of luck. Good?
Yep. All right.
We got enough.
That's
we got enough to chew up, David.
Yeah, that's a production wrap on question. That's for sure.